It has just been announced that light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier will face number 2 ranked Volkan Oezdemir at UFC 220, taking place on January 20th at the TD Garden in Boston. It was only yesterday that Dana White said during a media luncheon in Las Vegas that Volkan was likely going to be DC's next opponent, and barely 24 hours later, the fight was confirmed. Boston, here we come at DC_MMA defends his belt against it Volkan Oezdemir at UFC 220 Jan. 20 at twitter.com/LuB5RB, UFC at UFC November 29, 2017. This will be the first fight Cormier has had since being reinstated light heavyweight champion after Jon Jones tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs shortly after his victory at UFC 214 in September of this year. No time. Oezdemir should pose quite the challenge for Cormier, coming into the fight with an impressive 15-10 record, and hope his recent troubles with the law won't play a factor in proceedings. On November 18, Volkan Oezdemir was arrested in Fort Lauderdale after a barroom brawl left one man unconscious. Kevin Cohen, the victim, claimed that Volkan allegedly knocked him out outside Capone's bar in Florida. Regardless of Oezdemir's legal issues, the fight should still go ahead, and for many, 2018 will start with such a highly anticipated light heavyweight fight. Volkan Oezdemir has already proved just how great a fighter he can be in the UFC, taking out Ovince St. Preux, Misha Cirkunov, and Jimmy Manuwa in his time with the company, with the latter bout earning him a Performance of the Night bonus. That doesn't mean Daniel Cormier is at a disadvantage. Taking Jon Jones out of the equation, DC has never lost, and he's not going to want Volkan to be the one to stop him now. There is no word as of yet if this matchup will serve as the main event of this card. Sahara Eubanks 22 MMA, UFC is out of the Ultimate Fighter A New World Champion finale. In her absence, the UFC has announced that one-ranked TUF 26 semi-finalist, Roxanne Modafferi 2113 MMA, UFC will be stepping up to fight Nicco Montano for the inaugural Women's Flyweight Championship. Modafferi lost to Eubanks in the very last episode of TUF. She was then set to fight fellow cast member Barb Honchik in the finale that takes place on December 1. Early Thursday afternoon, Sahara has forced to pull out of the fight, giving Roxanne the opportunity to fight for the championship against Nicco Montano. Released an official statement about the change courtesy of MMA Junkie. Due to medical issues, Sahara Eubanks was hospitalized Thursday morning and has been pulled from her bout against Nicco Montano at Friday's The Ultimate Fighter finale. Stepping in for Eubanks to fight in the inaugural UFC Women's Flyweight Championship bout will be Ultimate Fighter 26 semi-finalist Roxanne Modafferi. Honchik will now likely be facing TUF 26 alternate Lauren Murphy on December 2. Murphy lost her opponent Priscilla Cachoeira after Cachoeira failed to get a visa for the fight. Eubanks has taken to her personal Instagram to put out a statement to her fans. In the post, she writes, "First of all, I'm a champion. Point blank. I will be UFC champion, but it's God's will that it won't be Friday night. I'm a gangster and I've cut more weight than most male fighters, and unfortunately, there were some miscalculations this cup. No excuses. I worked my ass off and went out on my shield. I was hospitalized early this morning for kidney failure, but best believe I'ma be right back training and right back after that belt. This game is of ups and downs. True champs know that and bounce back. Nicco and Roxanne, I'm sure will have a great fight, and best wishes to both those ladies. True class, those two. Nothing changes. I'm still the queen and I will claim my throne. Thank you to all my coaches, friends and family and the wonderful staff at UFC. God is good and I am truly blessed." The entire fight card to date is as follows: Roxanne Modafferi vs Nicco Montano, Emily Whitmire vs Jillian Robertson, Barb Honchik vs Lauren Murphy, Ariel Beck vs Shayna Dobson, Deanna Bennett vs Melinda Fabian, Rachel Ostovich vs Karine Gevorgian, Montana De La Rosa vs Christina Marks, Sean O'Malley vs Tarian Warrior, Rick Spicely vs Gerald Mearsher, Joe Soto vs Brett Johns. The Ultimate Fighter 26 finale, a champion will be crowned, is still set to take place Deck Point One Stone at the Park Theater, Paradise, Nevada. Yesterday, former UFC heavyweight Shane Carwin announced his retirement, ruling out his potential Bellator debut. Rather surprisingly, the veteran announced the news on RMMA. He wrote, "Oh, have tried to get fights. It seems like there are no interesting fights and I am not getting younger. Let me just lay my gloves down right here on RMMA. Thank you to each and every one of you. It is odd to be healthy and unable to compete, yet able to compete when so unhealthy. I guess we end with never knowing what could have been. Somber would be the best way to describe the emotion. Thank you all for the love, the insults and the great times. I will sink back into the mode of being a Redditor and my quest to become a mod here. I am also on the hunt for a large fedora. I am like an 8 and 12 in hats. Less than mod requirements. Seriously, thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being amazing and making this sport amazing. We feel the love and energy in the cage and it completes the journey. We love what we do because we get to do it for you. Carwin. This comes after Carwin's unsuccessful campaign to be added as an alternate for Bellator's upcoming heavyweight tournament. A shame. Shane would be perfect for a UFC vet dream fight, which recently Bellator seemed more than happy to oblige the fans with. Carwin hasn't competed since he lost to Junior Dos Santos in 2011 under the UFC banner. He was 12 fights undefeated before losing to Brock Lesnar in 2010. The UFC's year-ending card found its pay-per-view PPV main event. Chris Cyborg Justino 1811 NC 30 UFC will defend her status as the UFC's female featherweight champion against former bantamweight champion Holly Holm 113 43 UFC Fight Club members. Your UFC 219 ticket pre-sale starts now. https://twitter.com/4plkdstl UFC Fight Club at UC Fight Club November 29, 2017. The champion is coming off of a dominant third-round TKO victory over former Invicta bantamweight champion Tanya Evinger, a victory in which Cyborg captured the elusive UFC gold. Her opponent, Holly Holm, is the infamous one whom head-kicked Ronda Rousey into her first professional loss. The former UFC bantamweight champion won her previous fight against Beta Kohea in Kallang, Singapore. The Preacher's Daughter won via head kick in the third round. The victory in Singapore was a welcome sight after a puzzling and controversial stretch of 3 consecutive losses. Her last loss, a unanimous decision to the inaugural female featherweight champion, Germaine de Randamie. A considerable amount of controversy surrounded the first female featherweight title fight. De Randamie landed 2 punches after the bell in the second and third rounds of the fight. Surprisingly, points were not deducted by referee Todd Anderson for either illegal blow, and de Randamie won by unanimous decision. Eventually, Holm appealed the decision to the New York State Athletic Commission (NYAC). Her appeal was denied. An official of NYAC told MMA Fighting, after a review of the video footage of the bout, the New York State Athletic Commission determined that there was no clear error or violation of statute or rule by referee Todd Anderson. Cyborg has had a much different experience in the UFC. In almost 2 years with the promotion, Justino has only fought 3 times. The issue, finding matchups for one of the most dominant female fighters in the world. Her frame does not allow her to safely cut enough weight in order to make 135 pounds. Essentially, Cyborg is the only true featherweight on the roster. The matchup between the two is the best thing since Holm vs. Rousey. It will pit 2 of the most talented female fighters on the UFC roster against each other. The rest of the UFC 219 card holds up to this aesthetic. Khabib Nurmagomedov will face Edson Barboza in the co-main event. Elsewhere on the main card, Jimmy Rivera vs. John Lineker, Cynthia Calvillo vs. Carla Esparza, and the return of Carlos Condit. UFC 219 takes place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada on December 30th.